I never expected to say this, but Grow a Garden is really beginning to lose a bit of the spark it once had. And I'm not saying that out of frustration, I'm saying it as someone who's genuinely been here since the early updates. If you played back then, you'd remember how strong the game felt. It was everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, full servers day and night. Grow a Garden used to be that game. But now, something feels different. Each update comes in, and instead of pushing the game forward, it almost feels like we're slowly drifting away from what made the game fun in the first place. As you can see, after the latest update, Grow a Garden's player count has dropped to just hundreds of thousands, and honestly, that's surprising. It's a big shift for a game that used to dominate so consistently. Now, to be fair, the smithing event itself is pretty solid. There's a new good divine pet, a very helpful cosmetic, and a fair progression system that doesn't require Robux. Free-to-play players can fully enjoy this one, and that's definitely a plus. But despite that, players are still leaving, and I'm genuinely curious why. If you have thoughts, leave them in the comments. I really want to hear your perspective. And this is where my concern comes in. I feel like this update might become a turning point for the game if nothing changes. The issue isn't just bugs or small balancing, it's the core experience slowly slipping. You can see it in community reactions, in comments, and in the decreasing player numbers. Many players are starting to feel like the devs aren't listening anymore, which is honestly sad, because this community is one of the most passionate I've seen on Roblox. People aren't complaining just to complain, they're sharing thoughtful suggestions that could genuinely help the game grow. But lately, it feels like many of these ideas haven't been heard. Players want to help, but that only works when conversations go both ways. Grow a Garden has so much potential, that's why it's difficult seeing it decline. It used to be fun, rewarding, and addicting, but if updates continue releasing without addressing the core issues, we might see more players stepping away for good. And I want to be clear, I'm saying this because I care about the game. I want Grow a Garden to bounce back. I want it to be that must-play experience again, but that can only happen if the devs pause, listen, and fix what truly needs attention. So if you agree, or if you also want to see the game improve, drop a like, leave a comment, and make sure to subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. The more voices the devs hear, the better the chances of real change. First, this is the update the game needs the most right now. A proper adjustment to the Raccoon and Kitsune. Speaking of the growing inflation inside the game, this is the area that needs immediate attention. The Raccoon and Kitsune are currently generating currency at a rate that the game simply can't keep up with. And when I say they need to be nerfed, I don't mean anything drastic or punishing. Nothing like what happened to the Nihonzaru, which became practically worthless the moment its entire passive was removed. That kind of extreme change isn't healthy for the game. A much more balanced approach would be giving the Raccoon and Kitsune the same passive behavior as the Red Fox, where their money duping action has a chance to fail. The pets remain useful, still strong, and still fun, but no longer overwhelmingly powerful. This small shift alone would slow down the rapid duplication of shekels, which is one of the main reasons why inflation has gotten out of hand. And inflation is directly tied to why so many players slowly lose motivation. Once someone reaches the point where they have more than enough shekels to buy everything they want, the desire to grind disappears. Without goals to chase, the game's loop becomes less rewarding. Just imagine being a new player today. You join a server with only 20 shekels and an empty garden. Meanwhile, longtime players have absurd amounts of wealth, trillions, quadrillions, even sextillions. And realistically, they will give it to you without hesitation. When that happens, what's left to work for? Will you still feel motivated to plant, to farm, to progress naturally, knowing you can buy everything from the shop right away? Most players won't, and this is where the core loop breaks. The moment a new player jumps straight to the endgame economy, the journey that makes the game fun disappears entirely. But the issue goes deeper than pet abilities. Even if the Raccoon and Kitsune get adjusted, the situation won't truly improve as long as direct shekel trading remains untouched. As long as players can hand out absurd amounts of currency instantly, inflation will continue to rise, and new players will continue skipping the entire progression system. No amount of pet balancing can fix an economy where wealth can be transferred infinitely and without limits. So the real solution has to be a combination of both, addressing how much currency the strongest pets can generate while also ensuring that shekels can't be traded in ways that instantly break progression. Without these adjustments working hand in hand, the game's inflation will keep spiraling, and more players will eventually lose interest simply because they no longer feel the satisfaction of earning their way through the game. Second is one of the most discussed topics lately, the idea of seed trading. Players have always loved pet trading, but imagine how lively the game would feel if we could also trade seeds. There are players who missed earlier events or couldn't craft older limited plants. Those players are locked out of content they genuinely want. Seed trading completely solves that. You would finally have a way to obtain older plants without waiting an entire year or hoping for an event rerun. Of course, I understand balancing concerns. If seed trading isn't handled properly, it could affect the economy. But instead of discarding the idea, it's better to implement it smartly. Adjust drop rates, set trade limits, or restrict event seeds. Solutions exist. It's not about avoiding the feature, it's about designing it responsibly. If implemented well, seed trading could actually strengthen the economy instead of harming it. Speaking of trading, I still don't understand why cosmetics aren't tradable. Out of all features, cosmetics are the safest thing to trade. They don't affect gameplay. People love collecting them, showing them off, and completing sets. Right now, they're mostly forgotten content after you earn them. If cosmetic trading was a thing, players would return just to hunt down pieces they missed. But without improvements, cosmetics will continue becoming stale. Players who already have everything lose interest, engagement drops, and updates become less impactful. That's how a game slowly loses momentum. Now, regarding cosmetics themselves, it's such a missed opportunity. The system released, players were excited, and then nothing followed. Cosmetics could easily become one of Grow a Garden's strongest features if expanded. Players love decorating, building, and creatively expressing themselves. But with strict limits, creativity becomes restricted. I understand there may be performance concerns, but there are ways around that. Dynamic limits based on device or server type, or even a slightly increased cap. Creativity has always been part of Grow a Garden's charm. Limiting that too much affects long-term engagement. Another noticeable change is the new 4-player per server setup. Honestly, it feels like a major shift, but one that makes sense. Player numbers have been dropping consistently, and after the smithing update, the game has been sitting a bit above 100,000 concurrent players. Just last week, it was at 200,000 to 300,000. The drop is significant, but reducing server size might actually be preparing the game for future expansion. Even though we can't expand gardens yet, I have a strong feeling that expansions are coming soon. And for players who love designing, this change feels like a fresh start. Let's talk about the teleport button to the gear and egg shops. It's a small feature, but it's genuinely helpful. Some players have it already, so it's clearly being tested. And based on polls, almost 90% of players want it. When a feature is that highly requested, delaying it too long risks making players feel ignored again. It's not just about the feature, it's about maintaining trust. Next, the inventory. This has been a long-standing issue. Eggs, pets, items, all mixed together. It's tiring to scroll through so many things. Eggs need their own tab, and typing egg every single time you want to place one becomes repetitive quickly. Small issues like this don't break the game mechanically, but they burn players out. When basic tasks feel tedious, people slowly stop wanting to play. Speaking of inventory limitation, right now you can increase your inventory limit through the Garden Ascension shop or through the pet pouch if you've already maxed your chance of upgrading it via this shop right here. There are two ways to upgrade it. One is through shekels, and the other is by sacrificing your aged pet. While those options work, they're very limiting. Why not reintroduce progression-based expansions? Tie them to aging pets, milestones, or achievements. Give players different ways to grow, because if not, pet collectors will eventually hit a wall, and that discourages them from continuing. The garden guide is another good idea that just needs more information. When you click on something like an acorn, it should display its base price, weight, and key details. Not everyone wants to check the wiki, and organizing the guide into categories like stalky plants, leafy plants, flowering plants would make it significantly easier to use. If not improved, the guide will become another underutilized feature despite its potential. Now, about that dev post from October. Stock is going to take on a new meaning soon. That single sentence sparked a lot of theories. If it hints at a trading hub, that could be massive. A proper trading system, safe trades through an NPC or hub, could eliminate scams and rebuild player trust. But it needs to be secured properly. If rushed, it could harm the economy. This update could be one of the best or one of the worst, depending on execution. And on the topic of scams, I've been scammed myself back when I started. Losing pets you worked hard for feels awful. A safe trading system would prevent that completely and restore community trust. Now let's address monetization. I understand that devs need to earn, that's natural, but balance is important. The pity system is great in concept, but having it exclusive to paid players doesn't feel fair. Free players grind for hours and sometimes get nothing, while paid players have guaranteed outcomes. That creates a divide, and once the community feels split, it's very hard to repair. Another feature worth adding is a refund system. Accidentally selling pets because you forgot to favorite them is extremely painful. A simple fix would be a 10-minute refund window. After that, items become permanently sold. It's fair and prevents abuse. But to support this, there needs to be a log in the sell shop showing your recent sales. Once the timer ends, the list clears automatically. That makes the system fair and secure. But here's the bigger issue. Players have suggested systems like this for months. The problem isn't the solutions, it's that the community feels unheard. And when players feel ignored, that's when they start leaving. Because at the end of the day, adding features like a refund system doesn't just fix mistakes, it shows that the devs are listening. And that's something the game truly needs right now. Grow a Garden doesn't need a massive overhaul to make a comeback. It just needs communication and attention to the small details that impact player experience. Seed trading could revive the economy. Cleaning up the interface could smooth out gameplay. A fair pity system could make everyone feel rewarded. But if these issues keep getting ignored, they will slowly wear down the community. The foundation of Grow a Garden is still great. The game still has charm, but Roblox is competitive. New games come out weekly. Players have options. One misstep or silence can make them switch instantly. So if you have your own ideas, share them in the comments. The devs have seen videos like this before, so let's keep voicing our thoughts. Grow a Garden still has incredible potential. It just needs attention, communication, and a bit of that spark it used to have. Because if the core issues aren't fixed soon, the game won't just fade. It'll slowly fall apart. If you're still watching, comment save gag so I know who stayed until the end. Thank you as always for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.